Hello, friends. In today's episode, we have a special interview with Jay Key, one of the organizers of Kaiju Go, a Japanese monster film, art, and toy showcase that is coming to Fort Worth, Texas on August 26th. So stay tuned during the second half of the show for that interview. And now, the theme song.
1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster
Movie.
fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors. Welcome once again to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. I am one of your hosts, Precious D.
And I'm the other one of your hosts, Honeybee.
Honeybee and I are a couple of best friends who are making our way through the history of kaiju movies. We started in 1933 with King Kong, and now we are all the way up to 1991.
What?
We're back in Japan.
We are finally on a movie where I was alive. I mean, I was still shitting myself, but I was alive.
Well, how's that any different from today?
I was born in 1991.
All right. This came out
Did
in
you say
December
how is that
1991.
any different from
So
today?
Keep up, Honeybee. Keep up. We're back in Japan with Godzilla versus King Ghidorah.
Or if you've heard the show before, Space Turkey.
Three-headed space turkey.
This three-headed space turkey.
It's in color. It is directed by Kazuki Omori. Written by Kazuki Omori. Produced by Shogo Tomiyama. That is new. I guess I don't have any details, but the original producer had produced the last one. This is new. So I'm not sure if he had passed or just retired or what. It is 103 minutes. It cost 1.5 billion yen and made 1.45 billion yen.
Oh.
They must have made some money off of it, selling it to America or something, because they keep making these.
You sound very disappointed.
Yeah. It must have been worthwhile selling it to television or on home media or whatever, because, they make another one. What is it, the next year? Yeah, the next year they make another one. For a little, yes, we're coming on a period where they're making like one of these a year. So it's got to be worth, even though those numbers don't look great, it's got to be worth their time to do this. The movie stars Kozuki Toyohara as Kenshiro Terasawa, Katsuhiko Sasaki as Professor Hiyonori Mizuki, Yoshio Tsuchiya as businessman Yasuki Shindo, Robert Scott Field as not the Terminator, M11, an android,
Mr.
Anna
Robot
Nakagawa. Yes. Anna Nakagawa as Japanese Jennifer Tilly,
Oh my
also
God.
known as Emi Kano.
Emmy.
Her character's name is actually Emi Kano. Richard Berger as Granchico. Chuck Wilson as Wilson. Megumi Odaka is back as Miki Sagusa.
Woohoo.
Akiji Kobayashi is Ryuzo Dobashi. Tokuma Nishioka is Takahiko Fujo. Kiwako Harada as Chiaki Morimura. Kenji Sahara as Takayuki Sagawa, who is apparently the defense minister. And I'm not sure if he actually has any lines in this movie.
If he does, it is very few.
Yeah. So Yamamura is the prime minister. Kochi Yodea as Masukichi Ikihata, and Kenpachiro Satsuma is back as Godzilla. Hurricane Ryu is King Ghidorah.
Dang,
Wataru Fukeda plays the Godzilla-saurus. So
nice.
Kenji will play this character in a couple more of these movies. Yes, the music is by Ifukube. He is back. Akira Ifukube does the music.
Yay.
And apparently actually did provide a new score. He reuses some of his themes, but they didn't just reuse recordings. He made a new score.
Yeah, and they use the themes
but he does reuse the
times.
Yes, yeah. So Kenji will be back playing this minister, or this character who he's a defense minister in this movie, and then he has various different positions in other movies, like he becomes head of the sort of Godzilla task force or whatever. But for whatever reason in this movie, he's just sitting there most of the time when they're in one of the big war room scenes. He's there kind of scowling at the maps or the screens like, or
you
whatever.
Know who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
I don't know why they didn't have him play the prime minister. Why they went to the trouble of getting him and then didn't give him anything to do. I've found it very frustrating. But I think he has more to do in the upcoming films. We'll see. We'll get there when we get there.
Woohoo! First movie I was alive. I'm so excited. We made it. We made it to the 90s.
I'm looking at some of the production notes here, and it says that it was Tomoyuki Tanaka's idea to bring back some of the iconic monsters like King Ghidorah, but he's not listed as the producer. Maybe he was still in charge of the studio, but wasn't doing the day-to-day work on this movie. I don't know. Akira Ifukube agreed to compose the film's score on the insistence of his daughter after he was dissatisfied with the way his compositions have been treated in Godzilla vs. Biollante. Yeah, I think they just kind of sampled some of his work or reused it a little, or that guy kind of rearranged it. I don't know. But he
I was
didn't
surprised, because it just sounded so campy. It was so different. It was just it just sounded so different. I was like surprised that it was a Japanese person who even did the music, because it just sounded like when we watch an American version of the movie, like the American music is just more like da 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 circus, compared to the like Japanese music. It's more like epic. It's more like telling you how to feel, and the American music usually is like la 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 music, yeah. So
apparently this movie was a little controversial at the time because of some of the World War II stuff. And there was some American-Japanese tension at the time, some economic tension, and some people found the whole thing to be in poor taste, including Ishiro Honda.
Oh, really?
That it was perceived as being anti-American. Honda thought having Godzilla crush American soldiers was going too far.
Damn.
But the director, Omori, says that was not his intention. And that he's not anti-American, and the American extras seemed very happy about being crushed and squished by Godzilla.
They're like, yeah, step on me.
Well, I think they were just, oh, good, we get to be in a Godzilla movie. We get to be crushed by Godzilla. Yay. Yeah, because these guys, they're all grown up watching this shit, probably.
For sure.
I have a quote here from the director. This was like years later in 2006. I'm not anti-American. I love American movies, and I've always watched American movies. Most American movies are, in the same sense, made the way I made my movies. I just wanted to make a movie with the American Army people in it and to put the rumors to rest. I'm not anti-American. I love American war movies, but looking at all the ones I've watched over the years, Americans never lose. And so I thought they should lose at least once. Why don't the Americans ever lose?
Because America, fuck yeah.
You know, the Army never gets the win against Godzilla, really. So why should the American Army be any different? This movie, Honeybee, well, before I say anything, what did you think of this movie?
I was so excited about this movie. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I thought it was kind of like going from Godzilla versus Biollante to going from that going to this movie. I was excited about it. I felt like it was great. I mean, I it was like weird how they kind of like the dinosaur storyline, you know, but I liked it. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I was excited for it, especially being in 91. And yeah. And also, how many times did you start singing It's Just a Jump to the Left after someone yelled Time Warp,
Time Warp.
in this movie?
Again.
God damn it.
Yes, I have that. I did absolutely have that thought. Same way whenever anybody, because a couple of movies we've watched, somebody will say, it's astounding.
It's astounding.
And in my head, I always go, time is fleeting.
Madness takes its toll.
Folks, we are doing a Patreon exclusive series of episodes where we go through the lyrics of science fiction double feature from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and we examine all the movies that are mentioned in that song. So if you want to hear those episodes, go to patreon.com/MMFTG and become a patron. There's currently just one level. The $3 a month level is currently the only level. And follow and support us on all the various things.
Woo.
Anyway, my thoughts on this movie are I enjoy it, but it is bananas.
It is.
It is banana nut bread. It is bananas in pajamas eating banana nut bread. This movie does not make one lick of sense, and their ideas about time travel are nonsense.
Teleportation and nuclear pollution.
It is, oh my God. It's got a fucking Terminator ripoff in it.
Yeah.
It's
There's
got
dinosaurs.
Japanese Jennifer Tilly in it.
I loved Emmy. Emmy kicks so much ass. I loved her. I loved her character, and she kicks so much ass.
I did, but she didn't make any sense either. I don't know.
Like her character?
Right. Like what? Well, we'll get to that as we go through the plot. Such as it is. The insane plot. Even the time travel stuff is sort of Terminator inspired, I'm sure. So here's the summary from Wikipedia, which is a little bit wrong to start with.
Uh-oh.
Because it starts off in 1992, Godzilla is still weakened after being infected by the ANEB, the anti-nuclear energy bacteria. But no, the movie starts off in 2209? Is that the year they're
something
from?
Something like that. 2204, I thought it was, but yeah, something like that.
2204. Yeah, you're probably right. 2204. It starts with some people in the distant future looking at images of King Ghidorah underwater, he's missing a head.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's saying he fought Godzilla? Like, yes, back in the 20th century, he fought Godzilla, and he had 3 heads back then. And then we come to 1992.
Yeah. After a nice Godzilla roar.
Yeah. And big credit, big title card. Meanwhile, science fiction author Kenichiro Terasawa is writing a book about the monster and learns of a group of Japanese soldiers stationed on Lagos Island during the Gilbert and Marshall Islands campaign, which is a real World War II thing. In February 1944, while threatened by American forces, the Japanese soldiers were saved by a mysterious dinosaur, which Terasawa theorizes was subsequently mutated into Godzilla in 1954 after a hydrogen bomb test on the island. Yasuaki Shindo, a wealthy businessman and army veteran who commanded the Lagos garrison, confirms that the dinosaur did indeed exist. There's no explanation of why the dinosaur is there to begin with. So they're kind of trying to give us an origin of Godzilla, but they're still not explaining why there was a dinosaur on the island to start with. And it does look much more like a Tyrannosaurus than Godzilla does.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, a UFO lands on Mount Fuji. When the JSDF investigates, they are greeted by Wilson, Grenchico, Emi Kano, and the android M11. And Emi just...
You go, Glen Chico.
I watched part of it dubbed and part of it subtitled. But Emi's just like, I'm Japanese. Like, okay. Because the other two guys are white, as you may have guessed by their names and the names of the actors that played them. They are American or European or whatever. They're not Japanese, clearly. And the android is not constructed to appear Japanese. He's also played by a white guy. The visitors, known as the Futurians, although I don't think anybody calls them that, explain that they are from the year 2204. There we go. There's the year.
They're time travelers.
Yes. And in that year, Godzilla has completely destroyed Japan. The Futurians plan to travel back in time to 1944 and remove the dinosaur from Lagos Island before the island is irradiated, thus preventing the mutation of the creature into Godzilla. As proof of their story, Emi presents a copy of Terasawa's book, which has not yet been completed in the present. He hasn't even started writing it yet.
I love this part. I love this part so much.
The part where he asks about the book?
Yeah, when he's like, he like sees it and he's like, that's my book. That's the book I'm writing now. And then he's just kind of shocked, and then he like goes on to ask about it, and
yeah, a little bit later he's like,
so funny.
Is my book a big hit in the future? And she's like, actually, hardly anybody's heard of it.
He's like, oh, damn it. But it's also funny because later on in the movie, he gets like a voicemail, and like this, the girl on the voicemail's like, I figured out what we should name the book. And he's just like, I already know what the book's name is, and I already know how it did.
She's also, we see his editor a few times throughout the movie. And I think on that same answering machine message, she says, if the book does well, will you marry me or something like that? Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, that's a big jump.
Wow.
Don't think he ever answers her. Though she just stand next to him near the end, so maybe. The Futurians, Terasawa, Miki Sagusa, and Professor Mizaki board a time shuttle and travel back to 1944 to Lagos Island. Why? This is part of what doesn't make any sense. It's not at all clear why the Futurians stop at 1992 before going to 1944. There doesn't seem to be any reason why they need to stop and consult with the people in 1992 before they go back. They just do. And and why are they dragging this science fiction author around with them? It's totally a Philo situation. You would get some characters that are there at the beginning, so they got to be first in, last out. They got to be there through the whole thing, but they have no skills to bring to the situation. They have no insight. They have nothing. The fact that he wrote about this in his book doesn't mean that they need him to go with them, but they do anyway.
Like you do. Just 3 holographic folks doing holographic folk shit.
Oh yeah, there was when they first meet them, outside of the spaceship, they're just holograms. They're like, oh, we're not actually here. We're inside the ship. We couldn't be bothered to get up out of our seats and come out here to say hi. It was just a reason to do some special effects, but it didn't really. It doesn't come up at any point later. It's not a Chekhov's hologram. There's no reason to let us know that they have holographic technology other than to show off that we're from the future and we can do shit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they go back in time.
Teleport a dinosaur.
There, as American forces land and engage the Japanese forces commanded by Shindo, the dinosaur attacks and kills the American soldiers. Oh, and there's a joke here about one of the soldiers being the father of Steven Spielberg. Did you catch that? The captain of the ship is talking to one of the other soldiers, and I can't remember if it's before or after. Oh, they see the time ship in the distance, and so he's like, "Oh my gosh, what was that? Was that some kind of UFO or spaceship or something? What the heck was that?" And the captain's like, "Well, I don't know, but you can tell your son about it when we get back from the war, Lieutenant Spielberg." And this was somebody's idea of clever. Like, this is why Steven Spielberg ends up making E.T., because his dad saw time travelers who came back to stop Godzilla from being created. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, the dinosaur attacks and kills the American soldiers. The U.S. Navy then bombs the dinosaur from the sea and gravely wounds it. After Shindo and his men leave the island, M11 teleports the dinosaur from Lagos Island to the Bering Strait. Before returning to 1992, the Fronturians secretly leave 3 small creatures called Dorats
Little gremlins.
on Lagos Island. Yeah, they're these weird little puppet
so
things,
cute.
these little winged goblin things that Emmy just tells us, oh, they're a thing that we made in the future and they help us. And then
They're a new kind of animal.
when they're about to leave, one of the people from 92 is like, hey, we're the Dorats. And Emmy's just like, time warp. Don't worry about the Dorats. We gotta go.
It's just a jump to the left. Yeah, and she says about the Dorats too that the Dorats like what they're for is like they can sense your feelings. And so if we get lost, they'll cheer us up. And I'm like, what the fuck? So they're just for morale? Like, what? So they're a new animal that we created with a biotechnology that we made to sense our emotions? Like, isn't that what a dog is for? But, okay, cool. Little gremlin Dorats, got it.
If we get lost, we can eat them. No. They'll just cheer us up.
They'll just cheer us up.
And we see her purposely let them loose.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the reason for this is that they are now exposed to the radiation from the hydrogen bomb test in 1944 instead of
Godzilla, yeah.
And they merge to become King Ghidorah.
Ghidorah!
After returning to 1992, the Futurians use King Ghidorah to subjugate Japan and issue an ultimatum, but Japan refuses to surrender. So, this appears to be their plan all along. I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but I don't know.
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, so I'm just going to read this next part and then we'll...
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Feeling sympathy for the Japanese people, because she's Japanese. I'm Japanese. Emmy reveals to Terasawa the truth behind the Futurians' mission. She flies around a little bit to do this first and then just flies into his apartment. In the future, Japan is an economic superpower that has surpassed the United States, Russia, and China, and even bought out the entirety of South America and Africa. and this might be part of the, the controversy at the time of the economic tension between America and Japan. This movie postulates that in the future, Japan's going to be so rich and the U.S. can't do shit about it.
Ouch.
So maybe that rubbed a few people the wrong way.
Yeah. We're all about ego here.
The Futurians travel back in time in order to change history and prevent Japan's future economic dominance by creating King Ghidorah and using it to destroy the present-day Japan. But why couldn't they just use Godzilla to do that?
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm sorry, it does say here, at the same time, they also planned to erase Godzilla from history so that it would not pose a threat to their plans. After M11 brings Emmy back to the UFO, she reprograms the android so it will help her. I'll get to that in a minute. So the thing is, in the past, we've seen that Godzilla sometimes defends Japan and sometimes attacks it. But in this current continuity, he mostly just attacks it. Does he defend it from Biollante in the last movie? Not exactly. Does Biollante defend Japan from Godzilla?
Biolante's not killing anybody. Like, Biolante's just standing there in the middle of the fucking ocean, never moves until Godzilla comes to her.
Right.
She never hurts anybody.
So I guess Biollante sort of defends Japan from Godzilla. It's not clear why they thought Godzilla needed to be taken out of the picture. Why didn't they just come back with something to control Godzilla? This is just one of the many things that makes no goddamn sense.
No Godzilla sense.
Yes. So Emmy reprograms the android by opening up its head and taking out 2 red CDs and replacing them with 2 green CDs. Because red is bad and green is good.
Alexa, go and find Godzilla.
There's a whole thing with the robot chasing them down the street and stuff and doing some really bad, some really kind of lame effects of him running fast.
It looks like he's roller skating through the war. It's pretty funny.
They make him run fast. Yeah, he does it on the island first, and then he does it in modern times also. He runs in 2 different ways, both of which are supposed to indicate that he's running fast. One is we don't see his feet, but the way he's moving implies that he's taking really long strides and just sort of gliding across the ground. And then the other way is just to have him run and speed up the film. They're both trying to indicate that he's running fast, but they look completely different. They don't work together at all. Ay, ay, ay. So this is the part that confuses me about Emmy, because it seems like she's in on the plan in the beginning, but then tries to play it off like, I didn't know what their plan was. Like, but you're the one that let the Dorats out. So how did you not know what the plan was? Or is it just once you saw modern Japan, you liked it? But why didn't you like Japan? If Japan's a dominant force in the future, why were you going along with these white guys' plan to come fuck shit up? Or did you believe them when they said they were trying to save? But she knows that Japan hasn't been destroyed. It's not at all clear what her fucking motivation is. But at some point she decides, I want to help.
Yeah, I felt like she, whatever it was, whatever fucked up shit, it really did feel like she was innocent when she was like, oh, what the hell? Like when she wanted to help, you know, and she's like, it seems like she's been lied to, you know?
Maybe, but then why did they bring her along? There's no reason to bring her along.
But isn't it because she's the, there's something, isn't she like an expert on something? Because Mizaki is the dinosaur expert, and then Miki is the paranormal researcher.
Right, but she's from the future. She came with them. She seems to be in charge of the Dorats, but I'm saying, why lie to her and bring her along? Why not just bring along somebody that's in on it? And it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Anyway, Shindo plans to send his nuclear submarine, because businessmen just have their own nuclear submarines, to the Bering Strait. So King Ghidorah is tearing shit up.
Because that's what he does.
So here's the other thing that doesn't make sense. The time travel. They have prevented Godzilla from happening. Now, normally, in a time travel movie or a book or whatever, if you go and change the past, then when you come back, that's just the way it's always been, and people don't remember.
Right.
Now, sometimes the person who went back and did it remembers because they were part of it, but really they shouldn't remember either. But we usually play along with the idea that the time travelers remember, but nobody else does.
Mm-hmm.
But in this story, everybody seems to understand that there was a Godzilla, but there's not anymore because we did some time travel and kept him from happening. So now there's just a dead dinosaur.
Which, by the way, that scene when they're like fucking with the dinosaur and the T-Rex, you know, and it like helps them and they're like crying. And
yes.
It was so sad. It was such a sad scene. Like, I was like, I'm not crying, you're crying. And I was like, oh my God, they really are fucking crying. Like, holy shit.
So even though they lost the war, their battalion or platoon or whatever survives when everybody else was wiped out because the dinosaur protected them long enough that they were able to survive the big battle. And as the dinosaur's laying there and they think it's dying, they all stand around and salute it and thank it and tell it, we'll never forget what you did for us.
We cannot mend your wounds. We cannot take you safely.
Yeah, they're so sorry they can't heal him. But Mr. Shindo, who is so rich he has his own personal nuclear submarine, wants to send it to the Bering Strait and to irradiate the dinosaur in order to create Godzilla. Because he still remembers that there was a Godzilla, and so does everybody else. And they think, oh, maybe we should radiate him now, and he'll still turn into Godzilla. Mm-hmm. However, Teruzawa discovers too late that a Russian nuclear submarine sank there in the 1970s and released enough radiation to mutate the dinosaur into Godzilla. So he's already Godzilla, but he's just been quietly chilling out. En route to the Bering Strait, Shindo's submarine is destroyed by Godzilla, who absorbs its radiation, recovers from the ANEB, except that he shouldn't be... I don't think they mentioned that, though, because that shouldn't be affecting him, because in this timeline now, he never was Godzilla, so he never fought Biollante, so the bacteria shouldn't be affecting him. But I'm not sure they actually mentioned that in the movie itself, so... I'm going to give him that one. So it appears though he's already kind of Godzilla, but then he absorbs more radiation from the submarine and becomes even more Godzilla. He gets larger.
Yeah, he looks amazing, and so does Ghidorah.
They comment on this. Good. They say, oh, look, he's bigger now. And they're like, oh, well, of course, because originally he was mutated by those old 1950s nuclear bombs. But we got much more powerful nuclear shit now, so of course he's bigger. So there you go. Godzilla arrives in Japan and is met by King Ghidorah. They fight at equal strength, each immune to the other's attacks. With M11 and Teruzawa's aid, Emi sabotages the UFO's control over King Ghidorah, causing the three-headed monster to lose focus during the battle. Godzilla eventually ends the battle by blasting off Ghidorah's middle head before sending King Ghidorah crashing into the Sea of Okhotsk. I don't know how to pronounce that. Godzilla destroys the UFO, killing Wilson and Grenchico. It then turns its attention to Tokyo, destroying the city and killing Shindo.
No, this is so sad. It's so sad because it's like he like spend his life like talking about this dinosaur, always remembering how the dinosaur saved his life, and then it was the same fucking dude that killed him?
He always remembered it, but he didn't talk about it publicly until the writer came and pressured him to, because he denied it at first. But yeah, he's on the phone with the prime minister, and the prime minister's like, what are you still doing there? You should have got out. And he's like, no, I'm waiting here for the dinosaur. He has this weird nihilistic sort of, I really died all those years ago on Lagos, and I'm just been really waiting for death to catch up with me, waiting for the dinosaur to he seems to know Godzilla's going to kill him and is okay with it. Is even welcoming it. It's really weird.
It's so
sad. He's standing there in his office, and he looks out the window, and Godzilla comes right up to his window as if he knows that guy I saved all those years ago is here and now I'm going to kill him. It's very bizarre. And
they,
then
like,
he just
stare
blasts
into
him.
each other's eyes for a second. Yeah.
Yeah. He blasts him with his nuclear breath and kills him. I don't exactly know what point they were trying to make with that. Maybe Godzilla is God in that, you know, some days he spares you and some days he doesn't.
Oof.
It's just the whims of nature, I guess. I don't know. He didn't spare you because he actually gave a shit. It's just because he was in the mood to kill American soldiers and not Japanese ones. Who knows? Emmy travels to the future with M11 and returns to the present day with Mecha King Ghidorah, a cybernetic version of King Ghidorah. They've replaced his
so
because
fucking
Godzilla not only blasted his head off, but he tore a big hole in his wings and stuff. So now he's got. So we do see a scene with her. So we see the scene from the beginning, but now we have some context. She's in a submarine in the ocean with some guy from the World Council, the Union, I think they call it, the World Union, the Earth Union, and is convincing him to let her revive and cybernetically enhance King Ghidorah so that she can take him back in time.
What's so funny about this part is, like, it was like we used Ghidorah, or like we got Ghidorah and then we used Godzilla to fight Ghidorah and then we used Ghidorah to fight Godzilla. It was like just this vicious circle. Like,
exactly.
What are we doing
this is
here?
part of what doesn't make any sense to me. Like, but why? Why did we do any of this?
Yeah.
What is the point of it all?
They're like using Mecha Ghidorah to fight Godzilla, who just fought Ghidorah. It's like, what circle is this?
Yeah.
What timeline am I in? And why is it that every time my note is, why is it every time this man cries, I cry?
It's a time travel kaiju version of the lady who swallowed a fly.
That's funny.
We travel through time to get rid of Godzilla to create King Ghidorah. And then we travel through time to destroy Godzilla with King Ghidorah. And it's... Then we swallow Godzilla to kill King Ghidorah and swallow King Ghidorah to kill Godzilla. Oh my god. Anyway,
meanwhile, there's a robot person running around.
So she comes back
the
with a
aliens,
cybernetic version.
Robot people, the animals turning into our favorite kaiju. Like, there's so much going on in this movie.
Yes.
Holy shit.
The cybernetic Ghidorah blasts Godzilla with beams, which proves useless. Godzilla then counters by relentlessly blasting Ghidorah with its atomic breath before Ghidorah launches clamps to restrain Godzilla. Ghidorah carries Godzilla out of Japan, but Godzilla breaks from its restraints and causes Ghidorah to send both crashing into the ocean. Emmy then returns to the future, but not before informing Terazawa that she is his descendant.
You are my great distant grandfather.
Yes.
Bye! She just fucking leaves.
Yeah, it's weird because they sort of try to create this like romantic tension between them, but then it turns out, no, I'm your great whatever granddaughter. But hey, why don't you, nobody says this, but there's sort of this implication, you got to go marry that publisher lady so I can be born in the future. Because she just kind of comes out and stands next to him at the end. I'm like, okay, I guess this is happening. At the bottom of the ocean, Godzilla awakens and roars over Mecha King Ghidorah's remains before swimming away.
Wow.
So, all this did was just tear a bunch of shit up, but it did not totally destroy Japan and change the balance of power in the future. And would it have mattered if it had? Everybody still would have remembered the way things were before, I guess, because that's how time travel works in this movie. The thing is, there's things... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I didn't understand the time travel, like when they describe the time travel, like the two people in one place situation. I didn't get it.
Oh, right. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember exactly. Oh, is it Shindo who can't travel back?
Yeah.
I think I think somebody says, why didn't we bring Mr. Shindo with us? And they say, oh, we can't do that because he's already there in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't. This is bullshit. I've seen this in other time travel movies. The idea that it's not okay to travel back to a place
Where you
already are, or that you can't exist in two places at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's one movie where, well, they can, but if they touch each other, it'll be a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
This is bullshit. I don't buy this. It's nonsense. Now, there's a good chance you're going to create some kind of terrible time paradox if you do it, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do it. And in fact, you have to be able to do it.
Yeah. Because
the thing is, all the matter in the universe is all here already. It's all there. It's all always been there. All the energy and all the matter of the entire universe has always been in the universe and will always be in the universe until it all, even when the universe dies, it'll all still be there. It will just have, depending on how the universe dies, it will have slowed down to the point where none of the molecules are moving anymore, and they'll still be there. They'll be inert. So if you travel to any point in time, even if you as a human being fully formed are not there, the matter that is going to be you, or that used to be you, depending on which direction you're traveling, still exists in the universe. So in a sense, any point in time you travel to, you are still there, whether you're in the form of a human being or not. So that's just bullshit. But it is a common idea in time travel that you shouldn't that either you can't meet yourself or you shouldn't I do agree that you probably shouldn't meet yourself, but I don't agree that you are not physically able to meet yourself. But that's what they're talking about. Shindo shouldn't be in, or can't be in, two places at the same time.
Okay.
So that's what that was about. But they don't bother adhering to any other time travel theories of any kind, because as I said, everybody just remembers that there used to be a Godzilla, and they're perfectly okay with it. Hello, friends and neighbors. We have a special guest with us now on the show. There's an event coming up in Fort Worth, Texas called Kaiju Go, and we have one of the organizers of that event here to talk to us about it, Mr. Jay Key. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you and a pleasure to be on the show.
Well, thank you. We sure do appreciate it. So, we've been looking around for some things to go to, some events to attend, and my partner Honeybee stumbled across Kaiju Go. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this event?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's I'm in Texas, and unfortunately or fortunately, it depends on who you talk to, because I know these things cost a lot of money to go to as fans, but we don't have a ton of kaiju centric events. I mean, yes, we have these great anime conventions where there might be a kaiju component. We have these great toy shows that might have a few booths that have kaiju toys and sofubi and all this really cool stuff, but we don't really have anything that celebrates kaiju and kaiju alone. And my good friend Chaz Foreman of Chaz Bro Toys, he's a designer vinyl toy artist. He and I are just friends. We hang out at these conventions. We talk kaiju on the side, and we just started talking like, why don't we have one in Dallas Fort Worth? Fourth largest media market. When I do these toy shows, I see all these great people that sit there, and I can talk for hours about kaiju movies. And we just said, you know what? Let's do something, and let's make, like, not necessarily start small or start big or whatever. Let's really focus it on what builds community in the kaiju world. And we're like, well, there's people that obviously love the films, and there's people that obviously love the collectible side of it. There's people that love the art component of it. Well, let's do something that kind of celebrate and touches on all three of those pillars. And that kind of convergence point led us to our Kaiju Go idea and event that we're going to be launching on August 26th.
And that is going to be in Fort Worth.
Correct.
What's the name of the theater?
called Downtown Cowtown at the ISIS Theater. It's the old ISIS
ISIS
theater
theater.
it started in the 1920s, and I think it burned down a couple decades later and was rebuilt and really had a beautiful, like, wonderful run all through the 50s and 60s and 70s, and kind of basically around the end of the 80s, it was left and totally just vacated from like 1989 to 2016. We're talking, and this is in the middle of the historic Fort Worth stockyards. This is the big tourist area of Fort Worth. And you had this beautiful 1920s, 1930s building that didn't even have a roof on it. Some of the pictures, if you ever go to downtowncowtown.com, they show a lot of the renovation pictures, and they restored it starting in 2017. And it is absolutely gorgeous. It has two bars. One of them is this really cool upstairs speakeasy, and it's this one beautiful screen. It reminds me of, going to the Egyptian Theater in LA or the Aero Theater, and it just has a cool vibe. And it's right down there in the historic stockyard, right on Main Street in Exchange, for all you folks that are familiar with Fort Worth. So it's a great location.
We have a similar kind of a theater here. Honeybee and I are also in Texas. I'm in Odessa. She is normally in Austin. Sometimes she's from Odessa, but she's kind of back and forth between here and Austin. And we have the Ector Theater here that was kind of restored recently. It never completely fell apart. There was always a little bit going on there. We had another theater that did completely just, it got torn down. But the Ector's been restored, and they have a lot of live events there now. But
Very cool.
Now you got me wondering if maybe we could schedule some kaiju movies there.
Yeah.
There is a small convention in the town next door a couple times a year, the Permian Basin Comic Con. So you're giving me ideas here. Ideas for some local stuff.
That's great. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, that's what, I think the kaiju fandom it's very regionalized, right? Because there's like these big pockets in these certain areas. And sometimes it's, other than G Fest in Chicago, and then the Days of the Dead, All Monsters Attack, which is a newer, Days of the Dead isn't new, but All Monsters Attack is. And,
I've heard of it.
And they've done a couple in Indianapolis and Chicago, and they're also doing one the same weekend as we are out in LA. And then there's another Godzilla Film Festival in San Francisco that same weekend. So it's these smaller shows in these pockets, and which is so great, because now, it's unrealistic for a lot of people to travel, across the country multiple times a year. And this allows, that maybe there's something close enough that you can drive to.
Right.
And I love seeing that. And whether it's in the Permian Basin or in the Southeast or the Northeast, wherever it may be, I just want to see more of these types of events pop up, because it's great for our fandom, and it's great to get the word and kind of the fandom to really just embrace all aspects of kaiju, collecting, film, art, you name it. And they're really cool events.
Yeah, we already have our tickets for Kaiju Go. We're going to be going. There is an event I just found out about that is the same weekend as G-Fest. So we will not be attending it, but it's something that's been going on for a while, called Blob Fest. Not exactly kaiju, but we've covered the blob on this show. And it's at the theater that is featured in the Blob. And they have a little street, they show the movie, they have a little street fair, and I think this year they're also showing the remake, and then they have a big run out that you have to sign up for, where everybody runs out of the theater screaming like in the movie.
I love those little touches like that add that, like, you're never going to forget doing that, right? You might forget the vendor hall and what collectible you bought or whatever, but you're never going to forget running out of the theater, recreating the scene from the Blob. I mean, that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. I'm going to look into that maybe for next year. Just depends on if it conflicts with G-Fest again. I don't know. So you're showing a couple of movies. Tell us the movies that are going to be playing.
Yes. So that was one thing that I was pretty particular about. And as you know, like, when you show films, whether it's anything outside of your house, like, you have to get the proper rights. And so we really focused on we wanted to focus on movies that we knew that we could get the rights to show. And luckily, most of Toho's library is available through a couple different distributors. There's a few missing pieces, but I decided to go with what I think is the quintessential 1960s Showa era, golden era of Toho piece in Mothra versus Godzilla. It's my favorite Godzilla film of all time from 1964 because I just love. I mean, on the screen you have like the who's who of Toho actors. You have Akira Takarada and Hiroshi Koizumi. You have Yoshifumi Tajima and Kenji Sahara. How can we forget that? And
Kenji.
It's so. I mean, it's such a cool, great movie. And so much significance, brought the fantasy element to the Godzilla franchise. It brought, or was the last where Godzilla's openly antagonistic and all that. And I just think it's one of the best movies of that era. So that was kind of the first part of our double feature. I want to start off with just such a classic. And then the second half we felt was the easiest choice because we went with the birthday boy. We went with Godzilla versus Megalon. Everybody, good, bad, or indifferent, has a memory with Godzilla versus Megalon. And so, it's celebrating its 50th anniversary. We wanted to sneak that one in there. And I personally love the film for all of its wacky and zaniness. And so that's kind of the double feature. Two very different Showa era Godzilla films from a, very, I don't want to say serious, but, the tone of Mothra versus Godzilla is very different than Godzilla versus Megalon. So we were super pumped about that great double feature.
Let me tell you, my memory of Godzilla versus Megalon was not seeing it.
Oh, no.
I was a kid and we were at the drive-in seeing I don't know what, but they showed a preview for Godzilla versus Megalon. And I just, that really stuck in I remember thinking, wow, that looks cool. I want to see that. But I don't remember ever going to see it. I probably saw it on TV years later. I mean, I know I've seen it now. I've seen it more than once now. But I also remember thinking that Megalon was the robot. Because, in the preview, it wasn't entirely clear. I had some vague idea of who Godzilla was already as a child. I don't know if I'd seen any, but I just remember thinking, wow, that's awesome. Can we see that? And, I don't know if it ever actually came to our local theater or not, or why I didn't end up going to see it. I do know when I rewatched it recently that the opening with the kid on the little paddle fish
little dolphin thing,
that immediately struck me as familiar, so I must have seen it as a child on television on some random Saturday afternoon.
I was at G-Fest, and he was the boy that played him and also played Ken in Godzilla versus Hedorah. He was there at G-Fest last year, and I had to have him sign a picture of him in the dolphin paddle boat, and as well as my Godzilla versus Megalon champion festival insert. So it was cool to finally meet him. I was like, hey man, that is, I know we love Godzilla and all, but the most iconic scene from there is you on that freaking fish paddle boat.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but at the same time, as a kid, I totally would have wanted that thing. I would have been all over it.
For sure.
I don't think I realized those two characters were the same actor.
Yeah, same actor. Yeah. He was a great interview, and he did a little bit of acting, but then he became a pilot and was a successful airline pilot, and just kind of left acting after, and so.
All right. That doesn't suck.
No, does the convention circuit a little bit, but was a very nice man.
Yeah. We call that character the Panchito.
I like it.
After Panchito from the Beast of Hollow Mountain. Oh. He was. We've been making our way chronologically through these movies.
Gotcha.
And that was the first time we noticed that character, and then that same actor showed up in the Black Scorpion, playing Juanito, playing the exact same character, but named Juanito. So that's our general name for that kind of character, is the Panchito.
Yeah. I like it. Very stock character.
We love them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So you've got a couple of guests that are going to be appearing. Tell us about them.
Yeah, like I mentioned, the goal here was really kind of these three pillars of fandom: the films, which obviously the double feature kind of covers that area of it, and anytime seeing a Godzilla film on the big screen is pretty cool. And so the special guests kind of represent the art sector of it, and we did not mess around. We went and got quite possibly, at least from an American standpoint, maybe the most famous Godzilla artist that we've seen, the great 18-time, or I don't even know, I think he actually is a 9-time Hugo Award winner, the great Bob Eggleton. And he will be there. You know, he's done so many covers, famous monsters of filmland. He's done box art for M1. I mean, he's done it all. And he is going to be there doing a little interview in between the movies, doing an interview. He'll be there with some custom event exclusive prints, some really cool stuff. And we didn't want to stop there because Bob he could headline any show by himself, but we wanted to bring a little bit like somebody that represents the newest generation, the latest generation of Godzilla artists. And we got the great John Yerkeba. And John is an IDW cover artist, and he's done stuff for Transformers, Beast Wars, Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, and he's done some official stuff with Sony and Ghost Corps. But recently, he's done a handful of the covers for Godzilla, Monsters, and Protectors, All Hail the King, one of their very successful Godzilla series. And so John is going to be there with Bob, have this representing so many years of great Godzilla work. And they're going to do this brief Q&A interview in between the two films. And then they'll be there to kind of shake hands, kiss babies, sign some stuff, talk about some of the cool stuff they did with all the fans there. So we hope everybody has a kind of a really cool, unique, intimate experience with these guys where they can actually talk to them, and as opposed to shake hands, sign the autograph next in line, which you see at some of the bigger conventions. So they're two great. Yeah, they're awesome people.
Slid away recently, just I don't know, focusing more on role-playing games, I guess, and not having the physical room to keep all my comic books. So I'm not sure if you just said the name Bob Eggleton to me that I would have instantly known who it was. But looking at the picture you've got on your website, I've got that Godzilla Age of Monsters book that's right behind his head there. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, I have that book. I guess I'll be taking it with me to get it signed.
Yeah, he's done, from a comic standpoint, he did some of the Dark Horse stuff way back in the day and a lot of IDW. He's done some of the Godzilla books that came out, especially like the 80s and 90s. And then Famous Monsters of Filmland covers. And then he's also done other things outside of Godzilla. Like I said, his science fiction art, he's won 8 Hugos. He's won like 9 Chesleys and 13 maybe it's 13 Chesleys and 6 Asimovs. I mean, and some Locus Awards, some Nebula Awards. I mean, he is truly the most decorated science fiction artist that's still alive, you know. And so he's pretty cool and truly one of the nicest human beings that you'll ever meet. And it's crazy. He's so nice. And John is equally as nice. And I told our buddy Chaz, that's the other organizer, like, it's going to be like, that might be too much niceness on the stage. Like, we need to get like a moderator that's like just a total like ass. That's to be like, because like it needs to balance it out.
You need a Harlan Ellison type in there to dick things up a little bit.
It's going to be everything. They're awesome.
Grouchy old man.
I know. Yeah, they're great.
When you say Godzilla novels, you talking about those paperbacks that came out in like the 90s, the Return of Godzilla? And okay, I've got those somewhere, but I was looking for them kind of recently and I thought I knew exactly where they were and I couldn't put my hand on them. So I've got to find them before I go to this thing.
Yeah. Do you remember, I don't remember what years, I think it was either late 80s, early 90s, the Godzilla children's books, like what makes Godzilla roar or who roars like Godzilla.
I do not.
Okay, so these are these children's books. They're like kind of like board books, but they Bob did that artwork, and those are like highly sought after collector's items now. Wow. And he did that. And my favorite piece that he did was actually non-Godzilla. I'm a big Sofubi collector, and I love M1 and their Tricycle series. And he did a Halloween Matango from the movie Matango, Mushroom Man, riding a tricycle. And it's now the great Yushi Nishimura, who is the owner of M1, put that as the cover or for the box art for the M1 Halloween Matango, and it is so cool. I'm gonna have him sign that box art, I think, when he's here. But Bob and John are great, and they really do, I think, like hammer home the art piece. But you know, it's funny, like they're great and they're our artists. We actually have a few artists in our vendor room, in our vendor gallery, which is a very curated space for collectibles. And we have David DeGrand, who's doing vinyl monster toys, so that's why he's there. But David DeGrand, he does the Simpsons comics. He does SpongeBob SquarePants comics. He's done, I mean, Uncle Grandpa. He's done a lot of really big Garfield. Like he's done a lot of big stuff, and he's this amazing artist. And he's just going to be there with us toy dealers. So there's going to be other artists in there outside of just Bob and John. So it's going to be a cool, unique event. It's kind of this melding of these kind of worlds of art, film, and toys and collectibles, which is obviously a huge part of the kaiju community.
Yeah. Now it's just a one evening thing. It's not a whole weekend. It starts at 5 p.m.
Yep. So doors open at 5, and hopefully they'll give you some time to go and check out the gallery with all of our great toy vendors, selling some designer vinyl toys, some Safubi, some custom indie toys, some really cool stuff. And then the first movie will start around 6. We'll do that. There'll be the interview with Bob and John. And then there'll be some more time to check out the gallery. And then 9:30ish will be the second part of the double feature, which would be Godzilla versus Megalon. And we'll call it a night. And so it'll be a really cool, hopefully a very kind of fun, compact evening that like you just can go all out kaiju and you don't have to worry about hotels or anything like that. Unless you're traveling in from Odessa, then you might have to do that. That's a long drive back. But for us local folks.
I have a brother in the area. He's going to let us crash at his place. So
very cool.
That is not
very cool.
An issue. Yeah, he's only about 20, 30 minutes from the theater. So it's
oh, nice. That's awesome.
Worked out well for us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we wanted to give everybody a chance to go out afterwards because you got to experience the stockyards if you haven't before. And so, ends at 11:30. You can go grab a couple drinks at one of the local watering holes, have a fun evening, and make it just a whole night. So that's the goal.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. I'm so glad that Honeybee stumbled across it. I don't know how she found it. Probably someone probably sent it to her. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about before you go? You want to plug some of your own stuff? You've got a podcast. You've written some books. Tell us about some of that.
Yeah. So probably the two things other than Kaiju Go that are Kaiju related. So I actually, for the last 2 years, I run one of the largest online Safubi stores in existence, Toku Toy Town. So if you are the person that loves your high-end designer vinyl toys from Japan, your Marasons and your Marmots and your Sarujurushis, I've been doing that for about 2 years now.
Tell us what Safubi are, because we don't talk about the toys much on this show. So clue my listeners in; they might not be aware.
Yeah, no worries. It is I always am a little nervous. It's a dangerous rabbit hole to go down. It's an expensive one. So in the world of Godzilla, there's kind of like 3 types of toys, and kaiju, not just Godzilla. You think of like these, beautiful, highly articulated statues and stuff from companies like X Plus that are, beautiful. That's great. They're very realistic. Then you have like your more kid-focused toys, more action figure type stuff. We typically hear Bandai as like kind of the biggest purveyor of those in the Godzilla world. And then the other component is soft vinyl or Safubi, which just literally means soft vinyl. But these are those when you see the kind of silly looking Godzilla that's glitter and glow in the dark and pink, right? Or the Matango riding a tricycle. It's that kind of art toy, designer toy world. But it started in Japan in the late 60s with the company Marasan, and it's been the most recognizable and the biggest collector group within the kaiju community for 60 plus years. And so Safubi is just the broad term for soft vinyl. Our store has other things other than Safubi, but that's kind of what we're known for. And there's a lot of really cool pieces, and these are all small production runs, handmade. So you might get a event exclusive from a one-day pop-up shop in Japan. 30 of them are only made, and that's it. They're not. Then they won't do that colorway again. And so it's a very interesting and fun kind of niche of collecting, and it's the most fun I've ever had. And I've collected a lot of different toy lines and fandoms and stuff, and it's by far my favorite, and it's not even close. And so I decided, hey, you know what, like I built some relationships with people in Japan and with these companies, and I was able to be one of the many avenues for U.S. folks to get them without paying $60 shipping and without having a proxy buyer in Japan that goes to these events for them. So it's been a really cool thing that we've done, and we built up a huge community. And I'll be at G-Fest with Toku Toy Town, and yeah, so that's really kind of it. I love it. Safubi, go check it out, man. It is something that is just, especially for those that are art fans and fans of that type of visual arts. It's something else.
And did you want to talk about your books at all?
No, we don't have to talk about the books. There's not really much kaiju there. That was
Well, no, that's all right.
Yeah, it's more sci-fi.
We sometimes branch out a little bit on this show. We don't mind going off topic occasionally.
Yeah, I lucked out. As a hobby that turned into more than a hobby. I had a handful of books, one series published under the series name is The Adventures of Duke Lagrange, and little did I know that once we went to Audible, and I have a wonderful voice actor that did all the work for it, the thing blew up, and so I ended up being about a 4-book series, and it was awesome. I got to go and speak at Worldcon in Dublin as a guest with it, and it's a fun kind of sci-fi comedy series. And it was just one of those things that kind of took on a life of its own, and I love it. And I haven't written anything. I've written some stuff for like some kaiju magazines and things like that, but I haven't gone back to the series once I started doing other fun things. But it's been great, and honestly, it kind of led me to a roundabout way to meet with a really cool podcasting network called Yes Have Some and the YHS Group, and they're the world's #1 Ghostbuster podcast. They expanded out, and now their toy collecting show, Toy Anxiety, is one of the most watched toy tube shows, if you will, and it covers everything. But one of the guys that I met through, because my book was promoting my book on there, that was just like we became instant friends because he is a kaiju, like just loves kaiju more than anything. He's a very knowledgeable kaiju guy, and his name's Jacob Walsh. I call him the Tattooed Titan of Tokusatsu. And he and I started a spinoff called YHS on Monster Island, which was just their kind of, fun little thing where we would talk every other week about kaiju movies and collecting and fandom, and not necessarily a set like format or agenda, just kind of us, shooting the breeze and chatting about stuff. And we've had some cool guests on there, like Attack Peter and things of that nature. But we've been doing it for over 2 years now, and it's been great. I've met a lot of folks through that, through the podcast avenue. As it's all about networking, and you get to meet a lot of cool people. And so that's been great. So YHS on Monster Island. We do put our shows on video too. Like most, we're podcast first. But we talk about toys a lot, so sometimes the visual medium helps. So YHS for Yes Have Some, YHS on Monster Island, and we drop every other week. And I'm doing actually a live show. I say tomorrow. I don't know when this is going to drop, but occasionally when Jake's out of town doing all of his other Yes Have Some and Toy Anxiety business, they were on a business trip in London doing some hush hush movie stuff. But they let me have the reins by myself, and so I'm inviting some friends, some kaiju friends over, and we're going to do a little live show tomorrow talking about Ultraman, the Ultraman anime season 3, and some other fun things.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. So YHS on Monster Island, Toku Toy Town, TokuToyTown.com, and of course, KaijuGo.com if you can make it to Dallas. Make it to the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex on August 26th. We'd love to see you.
Well, as I said, we are going to be there, so look for us as well. Jay, Keith, thank you so much for joining us today here on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. And now back to the rest of the show. I have mixed feelings about this movie because there's a lot of cool shit in it, but none of it makes any goddamn sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved how Mecha King Ghidorah looked.
Yes, same.
I just wish he had made some sense.
I think Ghidorah looks good, all the way around. He's less turkey-ish. I mean, from the bottom, he still looks like an oven-roasted turkey, but he's just more his movement is fluid and better, and he sounds great. He's less gobbly. He was really great all the way around, and I loved Mecha Ghidorah. It was so awesome. It was such a twist,
Yeah. Oh, here's an interesting thing. Because the previous installment was a box office disappointment due to a lack of child viewership and alleged competition with the Back to the Future franchise, the producers of Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah were compelled to create a film with more fantasy elements along with the time travel. So, Yeah, I think they were absolutely, because not only Back to the Future, but as I mentioned, Terminator, which is also a time travel movie. So I think they were very much, time travel is really popular right now. Let's do some of that. Plus, they've done everything else already. So they've done Aliens. They've
this
done
one was just wild.
Atomic Mutants. It's time to do time travel. So,
and robot people.
Yes. We've had some robots, haven't we?
Yeah, for sure, but not like this. Not where they like look human, you know?
Yeah. No, I think there was, well, I don't know. It's all was that in a Godzilla one? Yeah. The guy, the scientist's daughter, was she a clone or was she a robot or was she both?
I do not know what you're talking about. The scientist's daughter. It was a Godzilla movie?
I'm pretty sure it was a Godzilla movie. It was definitely a Japanese movie.
She was a clone. She was a clone.
She was a clone. She wasn't a robot.
No.
No, but they called her a clone, but then there's a part where they open up and are operating on the machine bits inside of her.
Well, they
she was a cyborg.
her, but she was a human first, yeah, and then they
she
just
wasn't
gave
a
her
clone.
robot
She was
parts.
she was a cyborg. She wasn't completely a robot. She was a cyborg, but they treated her like a robot. They were really mean to her. Yeah. Okay, Honeybee, what are you gonna rate Godzilla versus King Ghidorah?
Dang, I'm gonna give it a 5. I loved it. I enjoyed it. It didn't make a lot of sense, but I had so much fun watching it. I was like, it was so shocking every time the storyline added something else wacky, like the little Dorats or the, robot dude. It was just so crazy. There's so much going on in this movie that it's like there was never a moment where I was like, man, this is boring, or like, it was so packed, everything just like one thing right after the other. And it feels like the pacing is really starting to pick up, and it was really different in this movie, and I loved it. I loved that it was from 91. I feel so good about that. It feels so cool that we're gonna do movies now in my era. I'm just super excited. I'm so excited to be here, and I loved it. I really loved it. It didn't make sense, and there was things that like annoyed me about it, but all in all, it was great. Super entertaining, and then like also coming from Biollante, which I also just loved so much. Going from that to this, it was so different, and I thought that was really great, and I loved it.
I think I can only give it 3 stars because it makes no goddamn sense whatsoever, and that just bugs me. I think they could have they could have done all this cool shit and still had it make some kind of sense. I prefer that science fiction movies be written by someone who has some goddamn idea of what science fiction is.
Science fiction.
Where can people watch Godzilla versus King Ghidorah? I know it's available.
Oh, that is a great
to buy
question.
and to rent. It's on Vudu and stuff, but let me just check if it's streaming free anywhere.
I don't think it is.
Quickly look this up. No, it looks like you're gonna have to go on. It's not. Some of the earlier ones are on Tubi and Vudu and all. I mean, Tubi and Pluto and all that stuff. But this one looks like you're gonna have to pay for it. It is available on all of the things on Vudu and Amazon and all that, but you are gonna have to pay for it. So it's not. I don't think any of these later ones are on HBO or Pluto or any of those things. So there you go.
There you go.
Watch it if you think it's worth it.
It's worth it. It's so worth it. It's worth it. Watch it. It's worth it just for the craziness.
Next week we'll be back with another Godzilla movie, unless once again I stumble on some things we missed.
Yay.
It will be Godzilla versus Mothra. Honeybee's favorite.
Yay! I'm freaking out.
Same situation. I think you're going to have to pay to watch it, but maybe see if your local library has it or something. Until next week, then, I have been Precious D.
And I have been Honey Bee.
Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements.
And please don't misuse science.
We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go.
Woo!
You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on your podcasting platform of choice. Our theme song is by the Texicano Folk Rock Punk featuring Lita Lopez. You can support the show, find links to our social media, and even leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/MNFTG.